Welcome to The Courage Effect. I'm Suzanne Weller, and this is a show about growth and unleashing what's possible. You will hear inspiring stories about what courage looks like, how we navigate what's getting in our way, and the opportunities that surface when we choose courage over comfort. Let's get started. Every breakthrough in human history started with someone saying it was blasphemy. Copernicus, Galileo, just the idea that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. And according to my guests today, the same things happen in organizations every day. We have all seen it. Somebody challenges the prevailing truth and the room flinches. My guest today is Brent Robertson, a dear friend, founder of Be Generative, and a TEDx speaker. And I also describe him as a professional provocateur. Brent works with leaders who refuse to settle for just better and are ready to leap into the beyond. He has over 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur and a strategic advisor. He helps individuals and organizations move from complacency to collective ownership, truly unlocking their bold visions, getting that performance and that innovation they really want and need. Brent challenges leaders to not just grow their business, but to grow themselves and to really live into the lives they're building. In this conversation, we talk about what it really means to create the environment around you, not just respond to it. We talk about the 3 levels of listening that most leaders rarely achieve, and what Brent calls the conspiracy against the status quo. And that's what strong leadership requires. We also have some hard conversations about the truths that we have received, what he calls the love punches, and how they changed our lives. They made us different leaders and different humans. It's a wonderful conversation. Brent, thank you again for joining me for it. And for all of you listening, this one is going to stay with you. So let's go. Brent, such a joy to have you here. Welcome to The Courage Effect.
Thank you for having me. Excited about this conversation.
We met in a very interesting experience last year through the grad program at Heroic Public Speaking, and we went pretty deep, pretty fast in that group. So I feel like I know you deeply in certain ways, and then there's other ways that I don't really know you. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show. I know we have a lot of shared passions and that we do similar work. And as we start this conversation, my entrance question for you is, tell me about blasphemy.
Blasphemy. What a cool word. I mean, just this. It's fun to say, and it makes a point for me. The way I refer to or use that word is to describe the reaction when someone challenges the prevailing truth of the time. As our almost reflexive reaction to anything new is to call it blasphemy. And if you look through the infinite chapters of the human species as we move through our advanced stage of animalhood, the moments that took us over the threshold into new realms of discovery, new realms of possibility, into creating a world beyond what was, always had to do with pushing up against the prevailing truth of the time. And one of my favorite stories I like to share about that has to do with Copernicus. And, well, we'll put it this way. If it weren't for, I would say not the bravery of Copernicus, I would say the bravery of Galileo that came after him. But if it weren't for people like Copernicus and his allies, we'd still be living in a world that believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. And as the story goes, the prevailing truth of the time, of course, that was unquestioned, was religious doctrine. And that's just how it was. And it's sort of like, well, that, any knowledge that we needed to understand was in the book. And there was nothing else to talk about. And then Copernicus and his curiosity started making observations about certain behaviors of those lights in the sky that we didn't fully understand, that didn't match. And he knew, though, that it was going to be so wildly controversial to propose the heliocentric model, which positions the sun in the center of what we thought was the universe, certainly our solar system. And he knew it was going to be hard to hear that. And so he actually waited till the end of his life before he published his work. Sort of squeamishly published it, died, and it was immediately banned from reading or access to it once the religious authorities at the time got a hold of it, except Galileo, of course, who grabbed a copy, and it influenced his life quite a bit. And he, in fact, as he propagated the idea, was actually imprisoned for the remainder of his life as a heretic. So it wasn't until Newton came along and showed the math behind it that actually what was truer than the story that was a prevailing truth of the time finally came into existence as the new normal. This at a time when even the idea of scientific exploration was a brand new concept. So anyway, blasphemy is that way in which we, slam our fist down and say you're crazy. And it's usually when an idea sounds crazy, there's probably something to it.
Hell yes. You have me thinking about, first of all, we need to read banned books. And
Yes.
I hate that there's even banned books in the world now, and in our country, but so read banned books. But how did blasphemy become important to you? How did this become something that really drove you and led you to really want to disrupt leadership in a way that was emergent and generative?
It really goes back to understanding the nature of any organized system, which is it goes from non-existent to existence. And once something exists, then our tendency is to want to codify it, perfect it, make it efficient, document everything. And the moment we do that, we have a status quo. The minute we go from non-existent to existent, we now have a status quo at certain states of maturity. And if a leader endeavors to grow an organization, one has to really realize that, okay, the status quo of an organization is always trailing behind the ambitions for its future. And actually stepping into a new reality requires a conspiracy against the status quo. Meaning that in fact, one of the great case studies that we have of recent history has to do with an enormous organization where we introduced the line breaking new ground, which in and of itself encouraged what we call beautiful breakage, which is what about the status quo is no longer serving us that we need to clear out of the way in the spirit of creating things that allow for the future to exist or allow for higher performance. And so even in the language of the story of our job, right? Every week, we don't just celebrate how many things we got done. We celebrate how many things did we get out of our way and how many new things did we create in the spirit of living into a future beyond what the past says is possible. So I talk a lot about what, as it relates to creating new realities, is a function of three major things. One, creating a new story of what that reality could be, or the possibility for the future. What's the narrative of it? The second is finding out who shows up around that story. Those are your allies. And then who's willing to put skin in the game and make that reality a possibility. Those are your accomplices. And so if we use, that language is kind of fun, right? That any new vision for an organization's future is a conspiracy against its status quo. That's a powerful way to sort of think about what we're actually doing. That's why it can be so difficult. Because our preference and bias will always be to what's familiar to us. Even if it sucks, we'll favor the familiar because we know it, and our brain actually favors it because it doesn't have to think about it. It knows what it's going to be like. We favor what we know. We favor what's familiar. We favor the stories where we've lived. And it keeps us, if we're not open to anything else, it keeps us trapped in a self-repeating reality.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. So how did you first get interested in being the provocateur that you are?
There was an interesting moment. I mean, I've always been, I've never been interested in small talk. I've always been willing
I'm shocked.
And it's not anything more than like trivializing it. It's more like if I'm gonna take effort to engage another human being, like let's go there. Let's talk about stuff that matters. Let's like have a conversation that matters. And so I've never built sort of my curiosity drives my willingness to ask big, dangerous questions. And that's been true for a long time. But there was a critical moment as, so my second company, my business partner and I merged two companies together and created an agency that was really at the forefront of digital marketing, those kinds of things. And we were really good. We were really good at building these beautiful, ambitious, and aspirational brand narratives and brand expressions for companies